What's going on, you guys? Slim here today with another video. Very rare I upload a second video in a day, but this is something that had to be covered. You guys already know the OCG ban list dropped today. Pretty crazy. I don't think anyone expected it to drop today. There were rumors about it. There were things that people had talked about, but I don't think we expected it to happen. But I'm here to give you guys my thoughts on it and what it could mean for the TCG. If you guys are new here, consider subscribing. Be sure to hit the notification bell. That way you guys will be notified whenever I upload. This list is pretty crazy, you guys. There's two erratas that took place as well, so we're going to talk about those real quick. Then we're just going to go through the list. I don't want to make a super duper long video about this. I know that whenever I make these ban list videos, it can take a while, but I'm going to try to shorten it. I have a lot of thoughts about this. I think this list is pretty crazy for Japan. I'm just going to say that overall. There's a lot of things I could see here happening in the TCG. Some things I hope that don't happen. Some things that I definitely hope do happen, but we'll get into it. Before I do, so the two erratas real quick are going to be Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon as well as Makiora the Destructor. So basically they were changed to hard once per turns. That way you can't over abuse Red Eyes Darkness Metal like you would in the Dragon Link deck. The Dragon Link deck is huge here in OCG, and it's starting to get a lot of steam here in the TCG, so I think they wanted to do something to Red Eyes immediately because the fact that that card is not a hard once per turn is crazy, so that makes sense. Makiora, same thing. I don't think Makiora is really going to have a huge impact here in the TCG, but just something that I wanted to mention. You guys will see they're highlighted here on the list. I'm, of course, on YGO Organization's page. I have the link down below for you guys to follow along just to get your information that you want to know about those OCG ban list. So this will take place April 1st. Master Rule 5 will be in effect as well, so it's going to be pretty crazy. A lot of these hits I'm going to say are preemptive because of Master Rule 5, so remember that when we go through these. I'm going to mention the word preemptive hits a lot, because a lot of these things are something that I could see happening here in the TCG as well, because once synchros are free, once XYZs are free, I think that a lot of things are going to change here in our game, and I think that they made a good preemptive hit to certain cards. So yeah, without further ado, we'll get into it. There were 3 cards that were banned. Degenerate Leaser of Rituals. You guys should not be surprised by this. This card is crazy. It was crazy during Necros format in 2015. Still crazy now. This card makes it to where your opponent just can't even play around your guy, your ritual guy, so it's pretty nuts. I think hitting this card is super important. It needs to be done. Like, there's no way around it. Guard Dragon LP, very important as well, because again, so in Japan they really abuse the Dragon Link deck. LP is ridiculous in that deck. It's also ridiculous here in our TCG version of the deck. Being able to summon anything from the deck or hand is crazy. You can abuse it really well in this deck, and I think that hitting this card puts it to where the Dragon Link deck cannot function the way it used to. So I could definitely see this happening here in the TCG. It's one of the first things I'll say we could definitely apply here in the TCG. Yes, we hit Agripane already, but these Guard Dragons have been crazy ever since they came out, so I think hitting LP as well as Agripane will definitely hinder the deck, and we probably won't see it as much as we would before. And Ib, the World Challenge Justifier, it's already hit here in TCG. I have no opinion on it. It was already hit, so Japan is just playing catch-up on that. On the limited, so this is where we're going to spend a lot of time on the video, because there are so many cards that got limited. It's actually crazy. The first one was ABC Dragon Buster. Yeah, this is a preemptive hit, because of how crazy ABC are going to be here in TCG as well come April 1st in Master Rule 5. Being able to summon multiple busters in a turn is crazy. It's terrifying, actually. ABC Dragon Buster is still a crazy boss monster. Yes, it wasn't as strong before because of Link monsters, but putting it at the ability to make multiple in a turn is crazy. It can interrupt the opponent's turn. Not only that, banishes the card. Not only that, it can just defuse itself basically into its 3 pieces, and it's pretty crazy. So I could definitely see that happening here in TCG. That, yes, ABC will definitely be one of the best decks probably come Master Rule 5, but I could see a lot of players wanting to prepare for this by hitting Dragon Buster to 1. Galatea and Harpor, I put them together. So Harpor is banned for us here in TCG, so I have no opinion on it in the OCG. Galatea is something I could see potentially happening. So people may not know, but Orcus actually won a regional a couple weeks ago, and Galatea is like the main culprit of this. The card is still insane. It still gets you to your Babel, to your Crescendo, to whatever you need. The card is so easy to make. The card is so abusable. It loops itself, that putting this card to 1 will definitely put a nail in the coffin for Orcus, and we won't see that deck around. We probably won't even see it as a splashed engine anymore. So I think by doing that, it was a very smart call. This basically puts an end to Orcus after all the time they've ran rampant. They've had their multiple formats. They've had their formats with Sky Striker cards as well. So hitting these cards, I think, is perfectly fine to put Orcus in check once and for all. Next is Junk Speeder. So this one's pretty interesting. I actually don't want to see this happen in TCG just yet. I want to see us have time to actually try to do things with this. I used to love Synchro Monsters, and I know there's a lot of players that love Synchro Monsters. So I'd love to see what those players will do with the deck going forward. If they hit Junk Speeder preemptively, I don't think we'll be able to see that. But even at 1, the card is terrifying. Being able to summon back so many monsters is crazy, and we could definitely see some crazy synchro decks coming out from this card. So do I see them hitting it to 1? No, I don't, but could they? Yes. Is it still playable? Yes, but I think it'd be cool to just leave it as it is right now, just because the card hasn't seen the light of day, so it'd be really cool to give it its chance once and for all. Next is Machiora the Destructor. We already talked about this. It has its errata. I don't think it'll be that prevalent here in the TCG, but who knows? Maybe someone will find a way to make it prevalent. Personally, I don't think it will be, but I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments below if you think I'm wrong. I just don't think after all these years, even though it's amazing to have the card back, I just don't think it's going to have as big an impact as people think it will. Next, they hit Quick Fix to 1. We've had Quick Fix to 1 for a while. Spirals are almost at full power out in OCG. That is terrifying. I know that's a word I use a lot, but yeah, that's terrifying. Full power Spirals is nuts. They don't want to play that format, so put it to 1 puts the deck more in check, as it should be. These next 2 cards to 1 are very exciting, actually. So Wind Up Zen Mighty as well as Magician. So people who didn't play back in 2012, you won't remember or appreciate this, but Wind Ups were a pretty crazy deck, easily one of the best decks, multiple YCS wins, multiple YCS tops, and they were just an amazing deck overall. Could this happen in the TCG? I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see players get the chance to actually play windups again. However, if they do, I want them to take care of Hunter because I don't want to see a wind-up hand loop. I'd like to just see windups do what they used to do. And I think being an XYZ spam deck, being whatever kind of deck they want, it'd be very cool to see what happens going forward if these cards do come back. I'd love to see wind-up players come out. It's for nostalgia mostly that they'd come out and get to play this deck again. So I'd be a huge fan if that would happen. So I'm all for that. I'd love for that to happen in the TCG. Dragoon of Red Eyes. Good. This card is crazy. This card is ridiculous. Terrifying. We're going to always use that word. That's our word. That card is crazy, and it needs to be dealt with even before it comes here to the TCG. We've seen what it's done in the OCG. We've seen how every deck has abused it, and I think it's something that just needed to be handled. There's other cards on this list that handle it, but it's definitely a good call, and I definitely want to see that happen in the TCG. Librarian to 1. So the card is abusable in synchro spam decks, being able to make multiple copies. They stack to draw you multiple cards. You draw your whole deck. You draw all your combos. Your opponent can get hand looped to hell with all the Trishulas and stuff like that. The Omegas, etc. There's so many things you could do with that deck that it's really scary, and I think preemptively hitting this card because of Master Rule 5 would be important, and I could definitely see it happening here in TCG as well. Cyberstein and Trishula, they both need to go back to 1. Being at more than 1 copy is scary. Cyberstein is a crazy card. Yes, if you Veiler and Permanence it, the opponent paid 5,000 for nothing, but if the card resolves, it's almost unbeatable. Being able to summon cards like Last Warrior from Another Planet or Naturia Exterio is crazy. There's also way better cards you could summon as well, so I think having access to those cards for free is basically crazy, and I think putting them to 1 is important. Trishula is also scary. You can do like some crazy hand loop in Japan because you have multiple copies. We don't need that anywhere near us in the TCG, so I definitely hope that that happens. Trishula is already seeing play in multiple copies in decks here in the TCG. They're also using it for the dinosaur deck, so I think that putting it to 1 will hinder the ability to, you know, play the card, and who knows, I mean, we might not even see it banned. We don't need any more hand loop cards here in the TCG, so hopefully they, you know, see the error of bringing this card back to more than 1, and hopefully it cleans itself up in like it did in OCG and applies here to the TCG. Next, we've got the Predaplan Anaconda as well as Scorpio. So this is because Anaconda is so insane. At 1, the card is still playable, so it's perfectly fine. Hitting Scorpio because the card does tutor the engine for this deck. I don't know if they'll do that here in the TCG. I see Anaconda more going to 1. I don't know if they'll hit Scorpio to 1 here, but it'll be interesting to see what does happen. The Predaplant cards haven't really seen a lot of play in a long time since the Lightsworn Minerva deck with 60 cards in grass, but we could definitely see this happening in the future. So keep an eye on these cards. I think that even though Anaconda is new, Japan has been abusing it for a while, and I think that even though we'll be getting it at the end of this month in March in the TCG, I think that we could potentially see the card going to 1 in our next ban list. Next is Totally Awesome. This one kind of sucks because I actually am a huge fan of Paleo. I think that, yes, it did need to go to 1. Totally Awesome is crazy in Master Rule 5. Being able to make multiple Toads in 1 turn is crazy. I think it's more important to hit this card preemptively because even though Paleo hasn't really seen a lot of play, they will become a huge contender in Master Rule 5. Being able to make multiple Toads with all your backed up with all your traps is pretty crazy. So I could see this definitely happening, unfortunately, here in the TCG. Link Ross, I don't really have an opinion on it. We don't have it here in TCG yet. I don't even know if they played more than 1 copy in Japan. Maybe they did. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments below. If they hit it to 1 in Japan, could it happen in the TCG? I'm going to say yes, just for the fact that I don't really know, but I know we do copy a lot of things from Japan, so I wouldn't be surprised if the card goes to 1 as well. Next, we have Red Eyes Darkness Metal. It got the errata. It's at 1. We have it at 1 here. The errata will go into effect April 1st for us as well. I'm sure of it. The card not being multiple times per turn is super important. They won't be able to abuse it as much as they used to, so I think it's fine if they keep it at 1 here in TCG, and just with the errata, it'll still be good, but not be as broken as it used to be. This next card, as much as it hurts me, I think this card does need to go to 1. Instant Fusion is ridiculous. It does so much for the game. Being able to use Thousand Eyes Restrict in tandem with Cross Sheet, being able to get more advantage off Cross Sheet because of Instant Fusion is crazy. Being able to reuse Thousand Eyes Restrict is crazy. You just bring it out once, use its effect, link into Cross Sheet, bring it out again. Like, there are so many things you can do with this card. Instant Fusion just does so much. It's such a great extender for so many decks. I think at 1 it's a lot better than having it at 3, because this card is just so abusable in so many decks. So unfortunately, as much as I love this card, it's one of my favorite cards, I think the time has come for it to go to 1. I think it should have happened a while ago, but it's been a while. Light Stage, don't really care. Trickstars aren't really doing anything. They did put Cantina back to 3 on this list, but with Trickstars aren't really seeing a lot of place, I don't see too much happening with them. Brilliant Fusion already happened here in the TCG, no opinion on it. Union Hanger, they really, really don't want ABC to play at all. They put Hanger to 1, ABC Buster to 1, yeah. That poor deck is just not going to get to play at all. I think that deck is done in Japan, unfortunately. Red Eyes Fusion, again, it's because of Dragoon of the Red. It has to happen, so no opinion there. Anything to slow down that engine, slow out that monster's summon is important. Gateway of the 6, because they do abuse it in certain combos in their 6 Samurai decks, and we don't need to see that happen here in the TCG, so I'm all for that. Leave it at 1. We don't need any more than that. They stack the combo, the counters are crazy, so I'm perfectly fine with Gateway staying at 1. Semi-limited, that was a lot. That was all the limited, you guys. That was just the limited, but semi-limited we'll try to go through real quick. They put Malicious to 2. Heroes are abusing it at 3. Slows down Heroes quite a bit. It is a quite important card in their deck, so putting it to 2 will make it so they can't extend as far as they could with the extra copy, so I could see that happening here in the TCG. Even though it just came back to 3, maybe they should put it back to 2. Heroes are still really good in the TCG, but put it at 2, slow the deck down a little bit, and we'll see what happens when Master Rule 5 takes place, because the deck will get a power boost from Master Rule 5 since they won't be limited by their linked arrows, so I could see that potentially happening. Draconet, they already hit Ib, so this card isn't at full combo anymore, but leave it at 2. I mean, I guess it's fine. I don't really care what they do to it. It's not seeing play here in TCG since we lost Ib, so I don't think it's really going to see play in Japan either. The Dangers, no opinion. Jackalope's at 2 for us. Nessie's at 1 for us, where it's at 2 for them. I wish Nessie was at 2 for us, but unfortunately the card's just too good. Dangers just give you free summons, free monsters, free draws. There's no reason not to hinder them, especially when they're the best ones that search any card or special any card from your deck. Symbols of Heritage. This card is weird because this card, it is always the part of some crazy infinite loop or some infinite like recursion deck. So this card going to 2, I don't know if it'll do anything in OCG. I don't know if it'll have any implication here in the TCG. Personally, I have no opinion on it. If you guys do, let me know in the comments below. It's been years since I talked about this card, but I do know that any card that is a monster reborn is pretty scary. So we'll see what ends up happening with this card. And lastly, to the Unlimited, Cantina at 3, Light Stage is at 1, Ash Blossom at 3, we have it at 3, Baby Sarasaurus at 3, we have it at 3 here in TCG. The coolest card on here, Lady Daybug went to 3, that's fine. We have it at 3 here in TCG, it is what it is. The card that really stands out to me though is Nekroz a Unicorn. I would love to see what happens if that card does come to 3 here in TCG. I missed Nekroz format in 2015, so I'd love to see what new Nekroz could do, especially the Pot of Extravagance builds. It'd be interesting to see if Nekroz could actually be a contender, a rogue contender in any format. But overall, those are my opinions. I think the list is pretty crazy. I talked about the implications I think it could have for the TCG. I think that there are a lot of things we can take away from this, a lot of things that may be mimicked for us here in TCG to correspond with OCG. But always pay attention to these lists, you guys. These lists are very important, that even though in the TCG a lot of our events are canceled, we're still going to get our meta reports from the OCG, as well as any local events that take place or any potential events that happen after the break that's happening till mid-April. I don't know if more events will be canceled. I assume that they will, but we'll just have to keep an eye and see what happens. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on the OCG ban list, its implications here on the TCG. I'd love to know yours in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Is this list crazy? Do you think that a lot of these things could happen here in the TCG? And if it does, how will it affect our format? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.